Because at the Cotton Club Radio, we don't just like to just chop it up. We like to really take it to the next level. You dig what I'm saying? New York style. You feel me? And really start breaking this up. But I really want to talk about Ghana going to the UN, trying to get reparations, family. You know what? I think about that move because it was a chess move from Ghana and other African nations to now start talking about reparations. And I find it very interesting, family, because for the last 15, 20 years, reparations and the conversation of reparations is pretty much been solely a FBA thing. No other group has been consistently talking about reparations or bringing the conversation of reparations to the table like Black Americans, family. Nobody. You talk to many Caribbeans, many of them try to shame us. Oh, you Negroes are always begging. Oh, why can't you pull yourself up by your bootstrap? Why you keep begging the white man for money all the time? A lot of the Caribbeans always saying that. They didn't really want to care. They didn't really care about reparations. Then you had YT. Oh, here these Negroes again. Can you do something for yourself for once? Can you go outside and get a job? This is what YT keeps saying about when Black people, Black Americans start talking about reparations, YT start coming to the table. You know what they say. Oh, these Negroes are always begging. These Negroes, why don't you just go get a job? Go get a job. That's what YT always talking about. And then you get these Africans. When Black Americans start talking about reparations, the Africans start coming to the table. You know what they say, family? Oh, these niggas, they always begging. They don't do nothing for themselves. Do something. You're in the best country in the world. Do something. This is what these Africans been saying every time we brought the topic of reparations to the table. Being that we've kept this conversation of reparations afloat for the last 25 years, now the Africans, some of the Caribbeans, but right now the Africans, now they want to pick up the baton. Now the Africans want to get invested in reparations. And I pose the question, family, why now? After all this time, why now are the Africans wanting to carry the baton for reparations? I'll tell you. You remember some time ago when Trump no longer wanted to deal with financing Africa, giving financial support and financial aid? What did he do, family? He cut the pipeline to many of those African countries. He said, no more. You're going to have to fend for yourself. Didn't Trump say that to many of those African countries? He cut off the raw supply of aid going to those African countries. So now they want to talk reparations. When that financial aid has been cut at the waistline, they want to talk reparations. But I find it very interesting that they're not even coming from a different perspective. They're literally coming from our perspective. They're literally just trying to hijack our momentum, family. Hijack our momentum, take our whole reparations plight, our whole idea, our whole way of going about it. They just want to take that whole thing, get some of our bootlicks to support them and act like they're representative of us, and take this to the UN. I find it despicable. I find it disrespectful. But one thing I don't find it, I'm not surprised, family. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because the same people that will tell Black Americans, do for yourself, stop begging the white man, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, are the same very people who have been dependent on financial aid for the last 60 years, family. And I'll keep it funky with you. All the money that they've given to Africa for aid, that was our reparations money, family. Trillions of dollars to Africa in aid. That was our reparations money. And we have to talk about this, family, because the shaming tactics that they're doing toward us with this whole, you keep begging. Those black Americans, they don't know what they're doing. Every time I turn around, they got their hand out. And yet these people are going with their hand out. I just find it very interesting, family, how hypocritical these people are. Just straight hard body hypocrites, man. But I want to talk more about the Africans trying to hijack our reparations. I want to talk more about that because the transatlantic slave trade was a trade that Africans participated in, Arabs participated in, Europeans participated in, Indians participated in. It was a worldwide phenomenon where the world decided that they were going to participate in the enslavement of certain tribes coming out of Africa. What makes this plight of the Africans, in particular the Ghanaians and all those other, some of the Nigerians who are claiming reparations, what makes it insidious, family, is that many of these people participated in the slave trade. Now, how are you going to ask for reparations for something that you participated in? For something that you housed, you charged rent to the Europeans to house slaves of multiple different tribes. You sent out people to go kidnap. This was big business for many African chiefs. It's documented. So we know the audacity that your hands are filthy and they reek of the residue of traitor, of turncoat. They reek of the residue of hypocrisy and disrespect. How dare you try to get in front of the reparations claim for those who are descendant of some 3.6% Africans brought to the Americas. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. Because they like them, they like to lie about that. What they said, 12 million Africans in total were taken out of Africa and dispersed into Brazil, dispersed into the Caribbean islands, dispersed into South America, and dispersed into all various sections, but very little of those Africans were actually brought to the Northern Hemisphere, family. Only 3.6%. That's about 300,000. So we know that it wasn't many of them even brought to the Northern Hemisphere. And we know the numbers don't make a lot of sense because from 16th century to about 1780, there was about over 2 million classified black people in the Northern Hemisphere, in the country we know now as America. So how did 300,000 turn into 2 million? And in a span of just 100 years, that don't even sound right. That's blasphemous. That don't make no sense. So clearly the larger population of black people were already here. And then they brought some black people here. And then those black people were amalgamated. So we have to tell the whole truth. We have to tell the whole truth, And they say that by 1850, Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, were already 6 generations American. So if you count 6 generations, you give each lifespan 50 years. I mean, that's well over 400 or 500 years, 600 years. So, at the end of the day, a lot of people have their own their own imagination of how we got here. But that don't even matter, To be honest with you, we know, we have the documented proof that we've been here for hundreds of years. Many of us can prove our indigenous heritage that's been here for thousands of years. But nonetheless, we did have our ethnogenesis, and we did get amalgamated, and we created a whole new culture. That's Black American culture, and I stand on that. And listen, I tell you, there's a lot of people out here who don't like the term Black, who say, yeah, but why y'all gotta say that Black, man? You like Black, man, oh my God, you're Black. I'm gonna share with y'all something, family. Something my pops told me a long, long time ago when I was 11 years old. You know what he told me, family? He said, it's 3 things that's guaranteed in life. He said, I'm going to get old, I'm going to stay Black, and I'm going to DIE. He said, 2 of those things I ain't trying to do no time soon. So what he was telling me, family, is that, yeah, one day I'm going to get old. There's no doubt about it. One day I'm going to DIE. There's no doubt about that, family. We all got to go sometime. He said, but regardless, I'm going to stay Black. So family, I ain't trying to hear none of that stuff, man. My pops grew up in Jim Crow. He went to Vietnam. And one thing for sure that he was not confused about, because those YTs kept reminding him, hey, Negro, get back there. Hey, Black man, get over there. So no, family, we have a history that's cultivated under the universal term Black. And that's why it's only designated for us. No one else has that history. No one else took that term that was considered dirty, filthy, dark, evil. You know, all of that stuff that Webster say Black is. We know that's not the original version of what Black meant. We know Black originally meant regal, but the YTs flipped it. And in their dictionary, they made it seem like it was something that was lifeless and, absent of light. They said Black was death. But we took that word, didn't we, family? And we flipped it. Through that degradation, we flipped that word and we made it into something that we use interchangeably. We use it interchangeably because it means something a little different to us than it means to Africans. It mean a little something different to us than it mean to Jamaicans. It mean a little something different to us than it mean to YTs and Latinos and all these other people. Even though we took it and changed it and made it pop and made it popular, now everybody wants to add their connotation to it. They want to add their sense or their flavor to it. When it's too late, we've already used the term, we've already adopted the term, we've already made the term a term. Now we got many of you using this term. And now many of them are talking about they're Black too, when at one point they were saying they wasn't Black. This is what we're talking about, family. We're talking about people who are master hypocrites. Back to the transatlantic slave trade, and why the fact that many African countries think that they're entitled to reparations is blasphemy. So they sold off millions of various tribes for what? Mirrors, beads, old rusty muskets, seashells, rum that was probably sour and old. In the history books, the Europeans said that the Africans were feeble-minded. They said that the Africans were like children. They said if they showed the Africans an old pocket watch that didn't work, they looked at it like it was a piece of gold. They said that the Africans didn't treasure, they didn't respect the wealth that they had. They treated the wealth that they had like it was nothing. But they admired the busted trinkets that the Europeans had that was worth pennies on a dollar, that was worth nothing. So this is why the European thought the Africans were not intelligent. They thought that they were feeble-minded, infant-minded, because when they showed them just basic, simple things, Africans bowed to them, got on their knees and said thank you so much, and wanted to invite them into their village and give them their daughters and do all kind of craziness. The Europeans were like, what the hell? What's wrong with these people? These people are nuts, you know? We can conquer these people in a day. They have no backbone. This is what those African leaders were doing, family. They don't tell you this. You understand? They're not telling you the truth. It wasn't hard for those Europeans to get those people out of Africa and extract them out of Africa. Were they brave? No. Were they warriors? Hell no. The Europeans weren't warriors. They weren't brave. They weren't any of that. But they used the Africans' feebleness against them. And they used other Africans against other Africans because they were tribal. They were easy to use because they suffered from petty differences. They had years upon years of petty tribal wars, family, where one group of people was warring with another group of people over nothing. Because that side of the street had reddish brown mud and this side of the street had dark brown mud. That kind of silly stuff. They just arguing and warring with each other over really nothing. And the Europeans came in thinking these people were feeble-minded. They said, well, what's wrong with these people? Why are they having conflict? Because that group of people calls themselves the red mud people, and this people over here call themselves the dark bread meat people, and they're feuding over this. The Europeans said these people are idiots. Let's get all their gold and their trinkets and their women too. They look all right. In fact, let's take them back home. Oh yeah. And put them in a circus. What they called her? Sarah Bartman. What they call Venus Hottentot. That's what they called her. Yeah. Yeah, the Europeans, they took her back home. Yeah, they took her and put her in a circus. And those YTs, what did they do? They held her prisoner in that circus. They made her engage in all kinds of filth behavior. They let their YTs do filthy things to that vulnerable woman, that she had so many STDs, family, you know, because she had been passed around so much. She eventually deleted because of STDs. You know, her ovaries had gotten infected. And what did they do with her remains, family? To that Venus Hottentot, what they call Sarah Bartman. What did they do to her remains? They kept her remains in a museum. This is what I'm talking about, family. This is what the YT thought of those Africans. So we have to be clear. So when we're talking about many of those African nations who participated in the slave trade, when they started realizing that these Europeans are stealing people and doing all kind of heinous stuff, what did they do, family? It was too damn late. You already let them take everybody. You had no warriors to defend yourself. You get no credit from me. That's too late. They didn't realize that they should come together and realize that they were fighting a greater opposition. No, they kept being docile, family. So no, African nations, you cannot try to come back from a botched deal and think you're going to collect your shillings. Nah, family. You left that a long time ago. Our descendants, both some Africans and both some indigenous, we amalgamated and created something new, and nobody can tell us nothing. Can't nobody tell us nothing. We built the United States from nothing. And now everybody wants to come here and claim it. They want to come here and say, well, those were some of our people too. No, they weren't. When they came here as property. They came here as livestock. When they came to New York on that Wall Street and they put them on those auction blocks, they were stripped of their African identity. They were stripped of their African language. They were stripped of their African resource. Everything African about them was stripped. And within 3 generations, they were American. What they call it, the 3-generation rule. The 3-generation rule. The first generation, pure. Second generation, half. Third generation, they don't even know the original language. They don't know the original language, man. They're a total different group of people.
King. Love. 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 Let your angels sing. I ain't twisted, this ain't the Henny talking for me. This is literally Malcolm Little talking through me. I ain't possessed, this is just when spirit meets the flesh. And a revolutionary is born, nothing less. It's hard for me to cope with stress, especially when I see the world much different from the rest. I can't sleep, nightmares, waking up cold sweat, wondering if I ever made it, will they do me like the rest? It's for my black souls who really too upset to rest, so they wander through my dreams. Please tell me what this means.
Cotton Glove Radio.